The first Dodgers free agent move has been leaked as reports have come out revolving around a deal offered to Raisel Iglesias by the Dodgers, and an insider has come out and suggested what the next plan of attack is for the Dodgers as they attempt to look and replace Tanner Scott as their closer. We're going to be breaking down what this signing did entail, what this contract held, and what we now know at this point and where things are going to be going forward for the Dodgers here in this video. Before we do jump into it though, ladies and gentlemen, I ask you one favor, and that's if you haven't already, be sure to hit the sub button. Join us here on the channel. We're covering everything Dodgers, and we have a lot of news coming as the first attempted signing was made by the Dodgers, although remaining ultimately unsuccessful, but that only leads to more and more questions. So let's jump straight into it here, going over the headline of the article as well as the tweet here in a moment as to where all of this is stemming from. The Dodgers were spurned by the top reliever in free agency, or a top reliever, I should say, not the top. This was not Edwin Diaz, but Raisel Iglesias was offered a contract by the Dodgers and ultimately decided to go back to the Atlanta Braves. And although it was the Dodgers involved, it wasn't just them. And as you see here, per sources, this comes from Francis Romero, Raisel Iglesias received offers from the Dodgers and Blue Jays worth around $16 million, but ultimately chose to return to the Braves. Now, this leaves us with some very good information as to not just what the Dodgers' plan is going to be, but also the route they attempted to take here, because there's been conversations ongoing about what the Dodgers' plan of attack is, revolving around their money, and we know that's not something that we normally have discussed. The Dodgers are willing to spend. They're looking to go and spend, and we know that, but they still want to be smart with their money, and I think it all starts with making sure you're not overpaying on someone after seeing what Tanner Scott did for this team in his first year under that new contract. And, like we've been talking about, he can most certainly bounce back. No doubt. We've seen pitchers do it before. Edwin Diaz has done it. But the thought of having another pitcher there, doing the same thing as Tanner Scott, then we see Tanner Scott not jumping back into where he was when he did sign this contract, caused a lot of issues for the Dodgers. So they're wanting to make sure they're getting their guy. And if they saw Raisel Iglesias as that top option, they were going for him. And that's what we're expecting here in this year's free agency. And when these two guys have gone out here, signed, Raisel Iglesias and Tanner Scott, when you have these guys in your system, that would really revolve around having anybody as a closer. You can have Tanner Scott there. You can have Iglesias there. That is also something that we've been speaking about. And mainly going back to our last reliever video with the possibility of having someone come in here as a late relief, but also a closer, and some that you can just switch around game by game if someone's not having a tight option. So Raisel Iglesias here would make a lot of sense. And ultimately, the Dodgers thought so as well. Tried to get him and were not able to. Now, there are a few things as well that come down to it. A $16 million deal puts us in the realm of still some of the top relievers in the MLB. And, not kind of far outside the bubble of the top reliever in the MLB. And we've kind of discussed as well here on the channel with the Dodgers money situation, like I said, but they don't want to go all out on a guy in the outfield. Was that money going to be allocated to the bullpen? We didn't know, but having a $16 million reliever, at least what the contract was, still don't know if it was north or south of 16 on the button, whatever it may be. The Braves brought him back, so you can assume that it may have been a little bit lower, the offer from the Dodgers, but it may have just been a situation as well where Raisel Iglesias, like the Braves, wanted to stay there. So looking at this contract and also going to look at his baseball savant, you get an idea of the pitching style in the bullpen that the Dodgers may be trying to keep an eye on. And although Raisel Iglesias, very good pitcher, good, selection of pitches, I guess we could say, not a guy that throws gas, necessarily. Still throws hard, around 94 is where his fastball hovers, but he is very good everywhere else. He doesn't rely on just velocity to get him to a successful point, and I think that's something the Dodgers are looking at as well, as where they have a lot of good velo in the rotation, they also have a lot of sneaky relievers that throw gas as well. So they shouldn't focus his velo as a top option when you have guys like Raisel Iglesias, who at 35 years old found the success in the movement of his pitches. And we go and look at the remaining of the free agent group here on the relieving side of things. You can look at the kind of the market values, and then we can kind of judge that based off these pitchers. And at $16 million for Raisel Iglesias, that would have been the third highest free agent contract for a reliever. Nick Martinez here is at a starting pitching role, so count him out. But when you're going Robert Suarez, he's around 17. Edwin Diaz is called 18.5. Everybody below that, and we've spoken about a few of these here. Pete Fairbanks most recently. These are all guys that will be a little bit probably less reliable than Raisel Iglesias in terms of, what he's bringing. But they are also mostly younger than what Raisel Iglesias has. And that one-year deal may not have been something the Dodgers really wanted to see, so they can look at other names here, maybe a Pete Fairbanks, maybe a Ryan Helsley, someone else on this roster that can hold a multi-year contract and be reliable for that time. So I think the way that this is structured, the way that everything has played out right now for the relievers and also the bullpen as we see it right now, an older pitcher necessarily wouldn't be a bad thing. You don't really want to go in and out of different closers every single year. But at this point right now, with only three pitchers, in the bullpen above the age of 30, I really don't think the Dodgers are too picky on what kind of age they get. As long as they can get someone that can close out a game, set up a close for a game at a reliable rate to go for that third World Series, that will be the biggest thing for them. So I'm curious to see what you guys think about Raisel Iglesias not accepting this offer for the Dodgers, but most notably, the Dodgers throwing out $16 million to Raisel Iglesias with more names there on the table. I want to see what you guys think about that. So I'm going to ask you the question. Would you have liked Raisel Iglesias on the Dodgers? I'll say I would have. Certainly would have been a great pitcher. Like I said, the velo's not necessarily his, forte on that side of things, but he is someone that very reliable for the last couple of years. And at that, even though last year he did struggle a bit, and the Braves were thinking about trading him there in July, re-signed him. Could go for another one, and I think that when you're looking at the Dodgers now, seeing the type of money that they dished out to a specific type of player, we know kind of what their big priority is going to be potentially before some of these big international signings. So I want to know what you guys do think about that for Raisel Iglesias, someone who is a very interesting name that the Dodgers were kind of hovering around the link to, but ultimately did not get a deal done before he returned to the Braves. But we do have one more thing here before we do finish this video off, and this comes from another article from Sports Illustrated. Max Muncy expects to play his final season with the Dodgers in 2026. So looks like we have a Max Muncy retirement on our hands coming up for this season. Won't be the kind of the scenario that was for Kershaw, but definitely one that the Dodgers are going to make sure he's living up his best life for. And it kind of also puts us in a situation where it does come down to free agency and the international free agents, like we had in the last video, Munetaka Murakami, whether that means the Dodgers could entertain that and try and find a third baseman for the future, or if Alex Freeland is that guy. That's something that we're going to have to talk about in another video here, but that's all I got in this one. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. I'm signing out, though. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.